welcome back to my show. In today's episode, I have a really special guest here with us today. Her name is Vina Kathy. Did I say that right?
Yes, and you pronounced Vina correctly too. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you could be here with us today. How are you, and could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Rose, and I'm a children's book author. My first two books are Icebreaker and Alicia, Alonso Dances On. And I was also a professional figure skater for many years.
That's amazing. That means that you have an experience behind the books. So that way you're like really resonating with the book you wrote.
Yes.
So could you please tell us a little bit about both your books?
Sure. So Icebreaker, both books are true stories. They're biographies based on strong women, which is what I was going for. And Icebreaker is about Mabel Fairbanks and the racism that she faced while she was an ice skater and while she was training. And while she couldn't break down barriers while she was a skater, she worked hard to continue breaking down barriers for her students when she became a coach. So if you read more on the book, you'll discover how she did that and how it worked out. And Alicia Alonso Dances On is the true story about Alicia Alonso. And she was sight impaired for most of her career, starting around age 19. And she traveled around the world and achieved greatness in dance despite having major obstacles such as sight impairment. So there's more to that story too, but I won't give it all away.
That's amazing. Just to note to all everyone out there who's listening to this episode, I'll be posting all the links, like the website link of Rose Vina's website. So you can click on that and find her books on Amazon, your local library, or wherever you read your books. So anyways, on to our fun questions.
Sure.
What would you say is your most interesting writing work?
My own?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a really great question. Actually, the story my agent is currently trying to sell. I think it's one of my best pieces of work so far. And it's actually a picture book that's fiction. It's a folklore that I created. And I hope it finds a home. It's been very long that she's trying to find a home for it, but with the COVID pandemic times, everything's a lot slower at the moment. So we'll see what happens, but I have high hopes for it and I really love it. It's dear to my heart and I worked on it for a long time.
So is this similar to your figure skating books or?
No, it's fiction.
Oh, okay, so it's fiction, but so it's like not about figure skating.
Correct. Yeah, I won't say what it's about because my agent's trying to sell it currently, but it is like a folktale, fairy tale kind of story.
Oh, nice. That's really interesting. Another question is that since you said that you write nonfiction, how did you do your research for your books?
Another great question. Originally, I was searching for Hispanic athletes. And that's how I found Alicia Alonso, because although my Alicia Alonso Dances On was the second book published, I actually wrote that story before Icebreaker. In fact, 5 years before. So Alicia Alonso has been a work in progress for a long time. And I wanted to write about another Hispanic because I'm Cuban myself. And I was also an athlete, so I really wanted to find someone to write about. And in my process of looking through Hispanic figure skaters, I found Mabel Fairbanks' name kept coming up everywhere. So I researched her a little bit and I saw an image of her and I realized I met her when I was a kid. So I felt very moved then to write about Mabel and her story, and I was shocked to find that no one had written about her before, completely shocked. Then Icebreaker was born, so yeah, just sometimes you fall down the hole and research internet rabbit hole and you're just like, okay, now I've found 50 different athletes and they're all amazing. Who do I?
Yes, it's like someone asking you what's your favorite book kind of thing, right? Because like all the books you've read probably are like amazing. So trying to choose on one out of like 1,000,000 books or 1,000 books you've read is like probably going to be the hardest thing to do.
It's really hard. Yeah, that's one of the toughest questions, I think.
That's the reason I didn't keep that question, because every time I ask that question, we really have to think, because like most of the time there's like an answer like, I can't really say I've read 2 million books. At least that's my answer.
Yes, it's true.
Like you can't really pick one book or even 2 books. Like especially if you've read many, you can't even remember half the books you read, because like either you read it many years ago, or like I don't know, you were like very busy with other stuff.
Yeah, maybe a top 10 per category. Maybe I could do that.
So now another question is like, what are the tools of trade for you? Like, what are the tools you go to all the time whenever you're writing, reading, doing research, or any of those above things?
For goals?
Like the tools of trade, like the tools you use to like maybe write.
Yeah, my resources, and I use a lot of different things actually. That's another great question. So of course, I live in Sweden, so of course I have to rely on the internet quite a lot, especially for American, people that I write about for biographies. But right now, I'm writing historical fiction middle grade and a dark fantasy YA. And for both of those, I use different tools. For example, when I build my characters, I love to use Pinterest. And I have a Pinterest folder for every character. And then I also have, for Spotify, for playing music, I have a playlist for every character. So I kind of build my characters around different apps.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, it's fun. And then I do different maps for the worlds that I've created. For example, where they live or what kind of facility they might be in and what it looks like. So I do a lot of outlining as well. But internet, there's a lot at your fingertips. But of course, I'll reach out. If I'm writing nonfiction, I'll try to reach out to the person that I'm writing about and see if they respond. They never have, but I keep trying.
That's amazing. Personally for me as well, I've made like Spotify playlists for my book as a whole. And I think that really helps. But sometimes like before I used to like add songs in there with lyrics with them, but then I've noticed that I get distracted, because like with the song you're like, I don't like this song, let's change it, and then you're like mainly focusing on the song than you're writing, right? So then I just decided to go with music instead.
Yeah, it depends which way you do it. So for me, I will listen to the playlist of the person's whose point of view I'm writing, and I listen to it before I start writing. And then I'll turn it off and I'll write. When I'm editing, though, I listen to completely different music, just very different from the book. I don't know why. It's a very good, I don't know, it helps me focus. I don't know why.
Speaking about editing, I would love to know how your editing process goes, whether you take time off from the book or like what your process is.
Yeah, great. One of my mentors at graduate school, he told me as soon as you finish a manuscript, put it away for a little while, at least a few days. So I always put something away for about 3 days, at least, if not maybe a week. And then I'll take it back out again and just read it. And I try to read it without changing anything on the actual manuscript. Like I'll take a notepad and pen or paper and write on the side if there's any major issues or concept problems or theme problems, character problems. Then I'll put it away again for a little while and think on it. And then I'll open it up and start editing line by line or chapter by chapter, depending what the biggest issues are first. So that's usually my editing process for full length. Picture books, I will edit straight through day by day.
That's like a really good process you have told there. I think like many authors and writers suggest that you take time off so that like you're not really attached to your work. Because I've heard that when you're really attached to the book or you're writing or the story you're writing, it's harder for you to like edit stuff, as you say, kill your darlings. By that they mean like, because like what you write is kind of like your children in a way, right? So
Yes.
I think that advice is like given by many authors, right? So I think that's like really nice, because without that I don't think it's possible to edit without feeling like you're removing something you really love.
Yes, you do need to separate yourself from it. It's interesting process for sure. I used to hate the editing process actually, and now I have grown to appreciate it much more.
Another question I have for you is like, what does success mean to you, and what is the definition of success?
Oh. For me, success is when you reach out for the goals that you've always wanted to accomplish. Yeah, it's not just a goal you thought of in 1 minute. It's something you've thought about and you want it, and you figure out a way to get it, right? And you're going to work hard to get it. And once achieved, then that goal is your success. So whether it's one goal or 50, I don't think that matters. I think success is not quantified, it's qualified, right? The quality of it. That's more important to me. So whether I have 80 books published or these 2 for the rest of my life, I'm very happy with what has happened so far. But I hope I have many more books published. But success isn't just in books for me. It's family, friends, how I live my life. Success can be in many forms.
That's very true. Another question on these lines are that, like you said that you really wish that like you really want to like get more books under your belt. So speaking of which, like I think your agent is the one who like reaches out to publishers, editors, right?
Yes.
So how does that process work? Like how does he or she reach out and get contacts from the publishing world?
So she is in with the agency, so literary agencies, and they have a lot of their own contacts within the agency, right? Plus any that she has met through conferences or seminars, or from the book world perhaps that she knew previously before becoming an agent. Right? So she builds her connections as she grows as an agent. And she's been an agent for a while now, so this is not her first rodeo, that's for sure. But the process, once you send in your book to your agent, is if the agent reads it and thinks, is this even publishable? Is this marketable? Where can I take this? So for example, if I wrote something more religious, then she would go to a publisher that wants to publish religious books, right? She wouldn't go to some other big 5 publisher that probably wouldn't be so interested in that, right? So she also has to look at what is, what's out there with those current publishers and who can she submit to. So then she makes a query letter, specifically about that book, but also with my accolades in it as well, and sends it to a list of editors. I don't think she usually does more than like a few at a time, and she waits for an answer, and then based on that answer she'll submit to another round of editors. So sometimes I think her main goal is around 3 rounds of editors, and after that we have to really look at the manuscript. Is it working or not? What's happening here? Why is it not getting picked up? Or is this just not marketable at this moment? Do we need to shelf it for a while? Right, so sometimes based on the responses we get from editors, we'll decide to move on to the next project or not. She's got several of mine right now though, so she's got a whole background of books from me at the moment, so we'll see which ones get picked up.
That's really amazing. Like the way you're describing it seems like when an author or writer is turning around to like write query letters for an agent, in the same way an agent is sending query letters for editors. In a way, like we're filling in each other's shoes. So like they know how it is to be a writer in a way.
Yes. And it depends too if an agent also does line edits or not on your manuscripts, because some do not. They want it to be pretty polished when it comes to them, and others do. And that is something I specifically was looking for in an agent. I actually asked if she does line edits and checks content and theme, and she did. So I was like, yes, great. Then you are the champion for my stories.
Another thing I have heard is that, like I learned this the hard way, is that whenever you want to send to an agent, you need to have completely finished your novel. And I apparently sent my novel when it was not even finished. It was halfway. And I was like, by the time they even reply, it's going to be finished in a month. I was thinking that, but then writer's block hit, and then I forgot what I was writing about. And then again, I did not get any idea on how to change it. So basically what I was writing before was a middle grade mystery, but then turned out to be an adult mystery because my characters were not the ages. My main characters were 22 and 23, which makes it adult, which is not what I was aiming for anyway. So I completely got rid of that novel which I was writing, and then moved on to my middle grade fantasy, which is going well right now.
Good. Oh, that's great. Yeah, you learn from the process, of course. Just like my agent will learn as well from other editors and what they're looking for. And I'm learning along the way. It's great to learn and grow and develop in writing. I think you do it your whole life.
That's great. So another question I have, I should have asked this at the start actually, but what really inspired you to start writing?
It was actually, the first things I ever wrote were for my sisters when I was really little. She actually has like these little bound books about a princess saving a prince, and my sister going to like science camp, and I wrote these little stories. Then I started ice skating when I was 9. So I kind of put writing in the background. I was more obsessed with ice skating at that point. But when I got done with the sport around age 27, my sister had her first child, and it was my niece. And I was like, whoa, I want to write something for my niece. So I sat down and I wrote 4 middle grade novels, a series.
Oh, that's
and yeah, they're not good. Like I said, we're all learning. Even as we get older, you have to keep learning. So I learned from those manuscripts that I really didn't know what I was doing with writing. And I knew I needed to do more and get more education in creative writing. And that's what I did. But my niece inspired me to really attempt this.
That's really nice. So I guess like everything happens for a reason, so that like, because like maybe if you did not have a niece, maybe you would not have started like actually getting into writing
Maybe? Who knows?
Okay, another question is, what advice would you give a new writer and who is someone just starting out?
Oh, I would say invest in buying some craft books so that you understand more about writing. There's also, very often, depending what state you're in, I think there's a lot of seminars and meetups with other creatives, and I think that's helpful too. There's also a lot of community colleges around the US that have creative writing classes that aren't too expensive if you just want to take one class. Like novel writing classes or short story writing classes. So I think there's a lot there where a new writer can get started. And then you need to read. Be a big time reader in the age category or genre that you're trying to write.
That I think is like one feedback which I think every single author gives reading, because like reading is like what gives you an experience on like what the publishing world is like at the moment. And then like let's say you're writing in fantasy, you can read other fantasy books to get an idea on like how to start or end your novel. It doesn't have to be the same, which of course is true, but that way you like have an idea on like what kind of things are happening in fantasy.
Oh, absolutely. You can go to your library and read a whole bunch of fantasy books, and that's free education right there.
You can like learn from the books, learn from the authors, and like since I like talk to authors like every like time I have to add them to the podcast, I learned so much from them, and like right now as well I'm learning many new things.
That's great. That's great.
Now I asked like I was asking what the advice you would give a new writer. Let's say the new writer was a young writer, like around the ages of 8 and 13, or maybe even like 8 to 19. How would you like what would you suggest they do?
That's a great question, because I have researched that on, is there much out there for creative writing instruction for young kids? There's a lot you can actually find online. It is a little bit expensive, but it can be worthwhile, I think. There are a few books out there too, like workbooks, and I don't have any particular titles in mind at the moment, but you can Google search and try to find, creative writing in my area or creative writing for kids, and see what comes up. There are some things out there, although it's not as abundant as the craft books and the seminars and conferences that there are for adults. So I do know that's a bit of a problem, and I do understand kids are hoping for more instruction, information, and education on writing for their age groups. It's actually something I am working on.
Yeah, and even like I personally like used many writing books which I found online. Like this is a program called Young NaNoWriMo. So that is really good if you want to start writing, and that way it promotes your writing skills, because in that, like after every milestone you hit, it gives you a badge. Before I used to use that, but now I shifted to like the actual NaNoWriMo.
Yes.
But just to start writing, if you start using that, I think that would be great for motivating your young writing self to like at least start a little bit.
That's fantastic. Yeah, NaNoWriMo is a fantastic event.
And like even their resources, they have books. In the Young NaNoWriMo one, they have books like plot resources. There's this book called Go Teen Writers. So all of them I think are brilliant resources. I was just asking for more, maybe if you had any, so that the audience, all the young writers can like use them and like get more into writing.
Yeah, you're right. I don't have anything specific in mind, but I will think about that. And if I think of something, I'll email it to you.
Okay, sure. Thank you. So this is like a really important question. This is more into the actual nitty-gritty parts of writing, which is like, how do you develop your plot and characters?
Wow. I think it depends on the story. So for my nonfiction books, that's pretty easy, right? I follow the timeline of the actual people and the events in their life. But you still have to pick and choose which events will go in the story. Therefore, to develop the character or create tension and anticipation about what the character is going to experience. So I tend to think of both plot and character development as a roller coaster. That you want things to go up and down at different moments to keep your reader interested, but also fascinated. So I think that applies to both nonfiction and fiction. So I try to think of it. Great.
I think your voice is cut out in between.
Okay.
So, how did you come up with the titles to your books? Like, I know that you write non-fiction, so it must have been through the characters, like your historical figure's name. But like, how do you like come up with the title of the books?
So I did come up with the title for Icebreaker, but the publish added Icebreaker, How Mabel Fairbanks Changed Figure Skating. So that had a little more description in there. But Alicia Alonso Dances On actually had a different title. And the book went to a sensitivity reader. And for anyone listening, a sensitivity reader is someone that you share the book with that has perhaps experience in the type of issue or theme of the story. So for mine, because she's sight impaired, there was a reader for that. And the reader said the title's okay, but it's maybe not as sensitive as it could be for those that might be sight impaired. So she said, you should try and change the title. So the publisher actually came up with this title. And once I saw it, I loved it. I said, oh, this is great.
It's really catchy. Like once you read the title, you're like, this sounds interesting. Let's buy it or like borrow it and read it.
Yeah.
Because I guess the title, even though people do say that don't judge a book by its cover, people apparently do.
Yes.
Even I do.
Yes.
That's like the first thing you do. But then for me, what I do is I read the title, see if it looks like something interesting, and then read the first chapter, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as it pulls me in and makes me like, after reading one chapter, I'm like, I want to read more or something. That's when I like borrow. But then when I'm short of time, I just look at the cover, read the title, read the back part if there is any, and then just buy it like that or borrow it like that from the library.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and sometimes on the back of the book, they don't have the blurb. They have reviews from authors or maybe book lists or starred reviews or something like that. I just read that and see if they're saying it's good, it must be good. So then I just take it like that.
Yeah.
So how's your process of like when you read books? Do you also judge the book by its cover, or do you like read the back, front, and then look at the cover?
I usually read the back to see if it's any kind of interest to me. And if the back has interested me, then I'll read the first couple pages. And then I'll see, okay, that's great. I like this one. But as I've gotten deeper into writing myself, the last few years, I found that I'm more analytical when I read rather than just immersing myself in the world of the story. And that has made reading less enjoyable in the last couple years. So I've recently picked up some stories again, some books again that I absolutely love. And I'm trying not to be analytical. I'm just trying to be a reader. And I'm finally enjoying it again. So I'm very excited about that.
That's really nice. So a few more questions. Is that like, what do you like to do when you're not writing?
Ice skating, obviously. I also have a dog, and he's really great, and he's training to be a rescue dog. So that's really fun too.
That's
and
really
he's awesome. And I have a 1.5-year-old son who keeps me super busy, but he's the most fun person that I've ever met. And we have a great time. I love my kid. And my husband and I, have our hobbies and things that we just go out and do, and long walks through the forest here in Sweden. It's beautiful. And in the past I've done archery. I've done a few other things, but yeah.
Oh, that's great. So now my final question is that are you on social media, and if yes, where can the audience connect with you?
Yes, so I am on Instagram, and my account there is rosevina_author, and I'm on Twitter as Vina Writes. I'm also on Facebook, but I usually only use Facebook for personal friends and family.
That's great. So if possible, you can email me those links and I can put them in the show notes along with the website. And yeah, I had a great time talking to you, and it was really amazing having you here with us to talk about your books your writing life, and much more. So
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. That's it, guys, for today. I hope you all enjoyed. Keep reading, keep writing, and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye, guys.